Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go up to all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun. All right, guys. Today's date, October the 5th, 2022, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan. How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we do try to watch our language on this show, and sometimes that words may fly. At the same time, guys, there might be things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, how do we get into this? Well, do you guys like gas prices right now? I mean, nobody really does. But we need fuel for everything that we do until we actually go over to the electronic, solar, and green power, I guess, as you can say. But unfortunately, the good people at OPEC decided that prices need to go up.
Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries has announced it will cut back production by 2 million barrels a day, a decision that could be devastating for gas prices here at home. Our business reporter Alexis Christophorus joins me live now for more on this. Alexis, let's start with the impact of this decision. What does this mean for Americans going to the gas station?
In short, it's not going to be good news. Let's take a step back and look at why this is happening. It's the largest cut in oil production since the beginning of the pandemic. It could very well force crude oil prices back above $100 a barrel, which would also push gas prices higher again. And it can also help Russia pay for its war in Ukraine. That's because this decision could actually undermine a plan by the group of 7 wealthy nations to cap the price of Russian oil on the global market. It's a huge blow to the Biden administration. This is really political jeopardy for them as they are now just 5 weeks out from the midterm elections. And remember, just 3 months ago, President Biden visited Saudi Arabia, trying to repair relations there amidst the highest inflation in 40 years. So this decision really makes very clear that OPEC is intent on keeping prices higher after enduring really several years of low oil prices.
And what's their motivation for doing that?
Well, they want to keep oil prices higher on the global markets. And what that's going to mean for gas prices is we could be returning to $5 a gallon nationwide. Right now, the national average is $3.83 a gallon, but in some pivotal states for the midterm elections, much higher than that. In California, $6.42 a gallon for unleaded. In some areas of California, even more than $8 a gallon. You've also got 8 hotly contested House seats in California, by the way. In Arizona, people there paying more than 40 cents a gallon than they were just a week ago. We've got a hotly contested governor race there. Nevada, Washington, Oregon, all of those pivotal states in the midterms, people there all paying more than $5 a gallon right now.
Now, gas prices were already starting to rise again after declining for 99 straight days.
Right.
So what else is at play here?
Oh, a number of things. Well, first of all, you still have very strong demand throughout the world as more and more places like China come off of lockdowns. Of course, now this situation with OPEC putting less oil on the market will only hurt. But we've had facility maintenance on the West Coast. That's pushed inventories down to record lows. Also, a refinery fire in the Midwest. And let's not forget, a European ban on Russian oil is coming in December. President Biden has promised to keep oil flowing in that country. So this is all putting pressure on prices.
But keep it flowing how? Can we boost domestic production here at home?
You would think we could, but it's not something that we can just turn the light switch on and you start to get more oil. That is something that would take infrastructure and it would take years to happen. Look, even the Biden administration has said they have very few tools to deal with this. Now, the president does have emergency authority to limit exports. That would help boost inventories here at home, but it could backfire on him because it could cause the energy crunch we're seeing on the global markets to be that much more. And also remember, we tapped those strategic petroleum reserves. Sounded like a good idea at the time, but you only tap that in a true emergency. We have enough oil in the market right now. That's not the problem. There's not a true emergency. You can't just tap it to manipulate prices.
Right, and you don't want it gone when you actually do need it. That's why it's there to begin with.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Now, again, This is great if you have stocks in companies like Exxon and Shell and Citgo and those places. I mean, it's great if you own a gas station because you know that, like most gas stations, um, you never have a slow day. There's always going to be somebody that needs, there's always going to be someone, a person driving, a person running a business, person using Uber, doing DoorDash. Um, Taking flights, trains, things of that nature, transportation, everything comes to a halt in the event that we are unable to keep running on dinosaur juice. And I've said many times in this podcast, Russia is the number 2 producer of oil in the world. Number 2, Saudi Arabia is number 1. And a lot of people are thinking, well, if Russia cuts us off, that's going to drive our gas prices up. I know we've said this a lot on this podcast, but I feel like I got to say it again. The president does not control oil. The president does not control gas prices. OPEC does. OPEC is the group of different nations that decide on whether to cut production or increase production. That's why Biden went to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is one of those countries in OPEC that can decide whether to increase or decrease. The Saudi family is only rich because they are sitting on the biggest deposit of oil in the world. I keep saying this all the time, that the only way that we're going to solve our energy crisis problem is that we're going to have to embrace the fact that we are going to have to look into renewable energy. Fossil fuels are finite. There is going to come a time where it may not happen in this lifetime. It may take a while, but there's going to be a moment where that finite resource is going to become kaput. And once it does, either that we have adapted way before that happens, or we get stuck in the middle of an energy crisis when there's no dinosaur juice to run off of. That's why the Green New Deal is in place, because the more we do drill from environmental impacts, we'll do more damage drilling and still burning fossil fuels into the air, increasing the greenhouse effect, because we are in climate change. You don't believe me? For the simple fact of the matter, look at our summers. Our summers are getting hotter and longer. Our winters, depending on where you are, may be short or almost non-existent. Antarctica is literally, I mean, the coldest places on Earth, the North Pole, Antarctica, Alaska, the places that we consider the coldest places on Earth are starting to look like California. And with those ice sculptures of ice appendages up there breaking off, sea levels will rise. And we already know there's plenty of cities around the US that are dangerously in that area if sea levels would rise. But this is the whole point of what I'm saying, that everybody want to blame the war on Russia. No, because wait till this Russia ban kicks in December, in which Biden did say he was going to help European countries, because again, the only thing that we have is our strategic oil. We only have our strategic oil, which, as the journalist said, even if they did tap it, it doesn't mean that prices are going to drop considerably. This is why the whole idea of renewable energy should be looked into, should be invested. As much as they invest in the Pentagon, it needs to be invested in clean energy. Just because the fact of the matter is, we do need to look into renewable sources, because our finite source of fossil fuel will one day disappear. And all I gotta say then is and hopefully we have an answer before that. But you can't help but wonder how long we're gonna keep this up, because the only people that are celebrating this increase in pricing are the ones that are in control of the oil and gas. Whereas everybody else, you about to run your pockets probably in the next foreseeable months once you go to the pump. But moving on, guys, again, I want to do we do this a student loan watch, because again, guys, we do know that Joe Biden did fulfill his campaign promise, guys. He did fulfill his campaign promise and said that he would knock off 10,000 up to 20,000, depending on certain conditions, for student loan forgiveness. It should have been more. We could argue that from sun up to sundown. But let's be honest, Biden is a centrist president. He was not going to ever completely cancel the debt, because Biden believes that we should pay, even though the minimum wage hasn't increased since 2009. But I digress. That being said, we do know in early October that on the student.gov website, or the Department of Education's page, there will be a form as of today of this podcast. That form is not available yet, but definitely check it out on the Student Gov website or Department of Education. Definitely check out either page, because trust me, once it's getting announced, I guarantee there's going to be a lot of people bombarding that site trying to get their applications in. But we do know in early October. Could be tomorrow, could be before the 15th. We do not know. However, again, I just can't help with this student loan program, which again, I'm happy about. I'm happy about because some people are going to get some relief. I still say that we should have forgiven the whole thing. Because a lot of people will sit there and say, well, we can't forgive the whole $1.7 trillion student loan debt, but we can run $4.7 trillion in wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. That's all I'm saying. You can sit there and play whack-a-mole all you want to, but everybody keeps on saying we don't have the money. Okay, we don't have the money, yet we're about to give $60 million to Puerto Rico. Where's that money coming from?
That are opening up, the hospitals that have kept running, the supply chains that held steady, and the debris has already begun to be cleared on roads across the island, and we will continue the debris coverage. Still, we have to do more. We have to ensure that when the next hurricane strikes, Puerto Rico is ready. Today, I'm announcing more than $60 million in funding to help coastal areas in Puerto Rico become better prepared for the storm. For example, we can create a flood warning system to help shore up levees and flood walls. In addition, there's nearly $700 million in infrastructure investments in Puerto Rico that have already been announced since I signed the bipartisan infrastructure law last November. For example, we've awarded $90 million to upgrade PR2 highway, and we've announced $163 million to begin construction on a canal to restore Cano, help me with the pronunciation. Martin Pena, that entire ecosystem. And we're going to clean up polluted waters and restore mitigation mangrove habitats, and bring back marine life. And you're going to see investments like these increasing significantly in the months ahead. We're investing in Puerto Rico's roads, bridges, public transit, ports, airports, water safety, and high-speed internet. We know that the climate crisis and more extreme weather are going to continue to hit this island and hit the United States overall. And as we rebuild, we have to ensure that we build it to last. We're particularly focused on the power grid. This year, to date, Puerto Rico has received $4 million to help make the power grid more resilient. That number is going to go up. As we conveyed to the governor, I'm ready to deploy and expedite more resources from the Department of Energy and other federal agencies, I don't usually talk this fast.
Okay, so again, that's him going over saying that, we're giving $60 million to Puerto Rico. Do not get me wrong as I say this. Yes, it is a U.S. territory. Yes, they deserve assistance, considering the fact they've been hit by Hurricane Ian. I am not arguing with that. However, again, people keep saying that we don't have the money for it. So you got to think, let's just go off the bat here. $60 million to Puerto Rico, which understandably so, for hurricane relief and improvements. Cool. Biden's going to have to explain this next one, though.
The Biden administration on Monday announced more than $300 million in new mental health funding. Funding will be distributed by the Department of Health and Human Services and the Department of Education. The new funds were allocated mostly under the bipartisan Safer Communities Act passed in June. The funds are intended to create happier and healthier learning environments for children. The DOE said it's dedicating $144 million a year for 5 years to increase the number of mental health professionals in schools. It is also dedicating $143 million a year for 5 years to boost the mental health professional pipeline. Applications for both of those grant programs opened Monday morning. HHS is also awarding nearly $27 million for a pediatric mental health access program for emergency departments. The Biden administration hopes the new funding will increase mental health awareness and access for those in need.
Okay, now again, this is a part of his crime bill that got passed, and I know for a lot of people, because I have to explain myself because people think that I'm for Joe Biden. I said, look, he was a better choice than Trump. I will always say that. But that being said, I also sat there and said that he wouldn't pull what he did with his crime bill back in '84. He had another version of it that was pending more to Republicans than it was to Democrats, and that mental health portion was a part of it. Can't argue that. However, $60 million going to Puerto Rico, $300 million going for mental health programs and therapists as part of his Safer Communities Act. So we know off the bat that $360 million of the taxpayers' money is going to two different areas. I'm trying to figure this out for the life of me. You know what else? I mean, you have one thing that's dedicated to the mental health of children. You have one thing that's dedicated to a country that's been devastated by Mother Nature, but yet $10 to $20,000 is all you can do for the American individual who has student loan debt that prevents them from getting a car, improving their credit profile, buying a home, things of that nature. Make it make sense. I don't expect the Republicans to jump on this because Republicans are too busy fighting for private banks, because private banks are complaining about the student loan debt plan, even with 2 lawsuits now in place to fight that student loan debt forgiveness plan. The reason one of them was in place is because Republicans are arguing that private banks will not be able to collect interest payments on student loans. Yes, I cannot make that up. That was the reason for one of those cases done by Republicans and put in place to basically sit there and say that private banks who gave out these loans will not be able to collect interest payments. This is why I keep saying the entire time that I know for my future children, I will do everything in my power to make sure they never take out a student loan. I will do everything in my power because, again, there hasn't been anything put in place to stop student loans from being literally the greatest version of predatory loans out there. Banks are still allowed to give tremendous conditions to kids who are 18. Let's be honest. At 18 years old, you didn't know what you were signing. You really didn't have a view of the world. And let's not forget, financial literacy wasn't the big thing in public schools, at least not for a lot of them. So imagine that you're trying to go to college just to be able to get a good career, which you only can get because at the time they said you had to go to college for. And imagine that a bank is there saying, oh, we'll give you the money because, eventually you are stuck with us forever. You will be a residual paying individual until you die. Or unless you win the lottery, or unless you really do come upon a good job and you pay us off. Either way, we win. And it never ceases to amaze me that Democrats or Republicans, well, more Democrats, I should say, aren't doing more to stop this type of lending, to put in place for student loans for certain conditions for them to be able to give loans to kids. I'm just saying, where's the legislation in that? Because I don't expect it from conservatives. I don't expect it from the GOP. I don't expect it from Republicans. I really don't. They're too busy padding their pockets because the people that bought them and paid for them told them to do so. But I digress. Again, guys, moving right along. We follow Trump, who Trump does what he does best. When he knows he can't get out of something, he will throw every legal piece at it, litigate the crap out of it, tie it up for years in court. Don't believe me? Do you guys remember that just a little over a few weeks ago about a certain search warrant at Mar-a-Lago for documents that the president can't have, but thought he could have because he was failure in chief before, thought he had the power to declassify documents, which he didn't, but took the documents anyway, and then made a whole rigmarole of the whole thing. If I can hold these documents, which he couldn't, for clearance that he used to have, but now he doesn't. And remember that his lawyers argued that a special master had to be put in order to view the documents to make sure that these were classified or what they can be viewed, and which special master ruled against him and said that that the FBI can look at these things. Keep in mind, Trump is under possibly the Espionage Act, which again is one of the worst things you can be charged with in the United States. But that being said, Trump is going to pull every legal maneuver he has, including begging the Supreme Court. I cannot make this up.
President Trump filing an emergency appeal to the Supreme Court tonight. The former president asking the court to intervene in the Mar-a-Lago case. The FBI, of course, seizing more than 100 classified documents. What the former president is now asking for. He appointed 3 justices to the nation's highest court, but obviously there is no guarantee how the court will respond. ABC Chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl leading us off tonight.
Donald Trump is appealing to the Supreme Court in a legal battle over the presidential records seized by the FBI from his Mar-a-Lago home. But the appeal is a limited one. His lawyers are asking the court to allow a special master to review the documents marked classified to see if any of them are protected by attorney-client or executive privilege. An appeals court had ruled last month that the documents marked classified should not be reviewed by the special master. In today's filing, Trump's lawyers write, quote, "Any limit on the comprehensive and transparent review of materials seized in the extraordinary raid of a president's home erodes public confidence in our system of justice." The Trump appeal, however, does not appear to attempt to block federal prosecutors from examining the documents as part of their ongoing criminal investigation, something they are already doing.
So let's bring in John Karl live in Washington tonight. John, this isn't the first time the former president has turned to the Supreme Court. We know he appointed 3 of the 9 justices, but they haven't often ruled in his favor.
In fact, David, the Supreme Court has repeatedly knocked down Trump's appeals. While he was still president, they ruled against his efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. And after he left the White House, they ruled against his effort to deny the January 6th committee from getting access to his presidential records. And even if he wins here, David, it would be a narrow procedural win that would not have a significant impact on the criminal investigation into those classified documents.
So, long story short, this is a stall tactic. I wish I could make this up, but I can't. Donald Trump is basically going to use everything in his arsenal, every legal point. That's why I say, you know what? You know the most lucrative job right now is Donald Trump's attorney. Because how many times can you sit there and file motions and claims in court and still get paid for your job? It must be Christmas in July for these people. But yes, not surprised that Donald Trump goes back to the same Supreme Court that he rammed, that, him, the Republicans, because I just can't put him under there, him and the Republicans ramrodded 2 Supreme Court picks in, Barrett and Kavanaugh, in order to give the Supreme Court a conservative leanings position. And again, can you blame Trump for not trying? Because let's be honest, it's the same Supreme Court that struck down Roe versus Wade, that immediately pissed off millions of women in America. Maybe not a few of the 100 Stepford wives that believe this is a great thing, but for the many million women who have been told by the Supreme Court that your body is not your own, have unequivocally of them pissed them off. So Trump's just thinking, well, hey, I got you guys in there. The least you can do is pass me. The least you can do is do me a solid. However, we don't expect anything to come from that. Eventually, another cord will get pulled. And this is what I'm saying, that when it comes down to it, eventually, and I say keyword eventually, Donald Trump is going to run out of options. His lawyers are going to come back and sit there and say, we've appealed to the lower courts, we've appealed to the higher courts. We simply do not have any other options. You are dead to rights, guilty. It may take a while, because keep in mind, Trump's trying to play hold the ball till 2024, as if him running for presidency in 2024 is going to push everything back. It won't and it shouldn't, because as the Attorney General Merrick Garland, the FBI are doing, because Trump basically called them out, you basically pissed off 2 of the most powerful positions in the United States. And you now have their complete and total attention. I don't feel bad for the former failure-in-chief, because I think it is going to wind up coming out. He is going to wind up being in jail for either for selling documents or keeping them. But let's be honest, he's a compromised president. The Russians have a piece. The Chinese have a piece. I wouldn't be surprised if every other nation out there has a piece of Trump, because he's a compromised individual. So I'm not surprised by that. But speaking of compromised individuals, Herschel Walker. I always said that the GOP was probably the one of GOP when it comes to Democrats was probably the more hypocritical out the two. As many people say, man, they're just birds of the same feather. Okay, birds of the same feather. But when you call yourself the party of family values, the reason why I say it's kind of bullshit is because of stories like this. Because Herschel Walker, who we have proven already, has lied plenty of times. Lied about being a law enforcement agent. Lied about graduating at the top of his class at the University of Georgia. Lied about many a thing. I'm surprised that, I'm surprised his football played out. If it wasn't for footage, if it wasn't for ESPN, we'd be questioning whether or not he played football, or is he just dumb and not just CTE related. But again, Walker is in the hot seat, and I think this might actually be the nail in the coffin. But before we start, we do have to say this. These are allegations only. Nothing has been confirmed. But it is funny.
Explosive claim involving the former football star, the Republican Senate candidate in Georgia. The report claims Herschel Walker, who has called for a ban on abortions, no exceptions, allegedly paid for a former girlfriend's abortion. What he's saying tonight and how he explains the alleged check he gave her. And his own son blasting his father tonight. Rachel Scott from Georgia.
The race that could decide control of the Senate now upended by the report Georgia's Republican Senate candidate Herschel Walker paid for an ex-girlfriend to have an abortion. Walker calls it a flat-out lie. Today, he was ducking reporters at a prayer breakfast in Atlanta.
It's clear Herschel Walker's campaign is trying to keep us at a distance. We tried to attend the luncheon that he is attending today. Well, his campaign kicked us off the property and moved us all the way across the street. We don't know if we're going to get any closer.
We didn't. Walker slipped out. It comes less than 24 hours after the story broke. An anonymous woman claiming to the Daily Beast that when she became pregnant in 2009, Walker urged her to have an abortion. She showed the reporter a $575 bill from the abortion clinic and a $700 check she says was from Walker. There's also this, a get well soon card she says he gave her. ABC News has not independently confirmed the report, but Walker says it never happened.
I never asked anyone to get an abortion. I never paid for an abortion, and it's a lie.
And when asked about that $700 check,
well, I send money to a lot of people, and that's what's so funny. I give money to people all the time because I'm always helping people because I believe in being generous.
Walker opposes abortion rights in all cases, no exceptions.
I'm for life. In the Ten Commandments, does it not say, thou shalt not kill? That is one of the 10 commandments that you should live by, that we should go by, thou shalt not kill.
Today, his own son, Christian Walker, calling him out as a hypocrite.
Family values, people. He has 4 kids, 4 different women, wasn't in the house raising one of them. He was out having sex with other women. Do you care about family values?
Christian Walker, a conservative influencer with a large presence on social media, says every member of Walker's family had begged him not to run in the first place.
Don't lie about your life. You don't get to pretend you're some moral family guy. You don't get to pretend all these things. Do not lie.
Rachel Scott with us live in Atlanta tonight. Rachel, top Republicans standing by Herschel Walker tonight. And of course, you don't need me to tell you this. This is a key race, one of a few key Senate races that will determine who controls the Senate after the midterm. So where does the race stand tonight?
Yes, David, and that is exactly why you are seeing Republicans on Capitol Hill rally behind Herschel Walker. With just 5 weeks to go until Election Day, polls show that this is a very tight race. And the Democrat, Senator Raphael Warnock, well, he is out on the campaign trail, making it clear that he supports abortion rights, saying that Georgia voters have a real choice to make this November, David.
Okay, so, okay. How do I start with this? It's allegations. It's allegations. Nothing's been confirmed because it's the Daily Beast. For all those who don't know, the Daily Beast is not the most reliable piece of information. But that being said, whenever a Republican gets caught in hot water with a mistress, a gay lover, a love child, I mean, 9 times out of 10, all those allegations usually wind up being true. Especially in the fact of Herschel Walker, because again, if I was his lawyer, if I was Herschel Walker's lawyer, number one, I wouldn't have him doing interviews. I would sit there and say, we're not going to answer that. We're not going to answer that. Oh, Herschel Walker, did you write checks? I write checks out all the time. I'm a very generous person. At least I try to be. If I was his manager, I'd be on the other side of the camera like, that's why I would literally just be motioning, shut the up. Because that's not the messed up part. Honestly, that's not the messed up part. Even about his son, who again may have found his viral moment, Not mad at him either. But is it really hard pressed to believe that all of Herschel Walker's family said, don't run because all this is going to come out? Which only goes to show you what more is going to come out about this man. Because let's be honest, when you're running for political office, every little dirty secret about you, every skeleton, every misdeed, whatever you did, will eventually be brought to light. Hence the political world, which I don't know why people believe that politicians should be squeaky clean. Everybody's got dirt. Just some people are very good about hiding theirs or paying them off very well. But the weird part about it was like, yes, I have a receipt, and they signed me a check, and they sent me a get well card. A get well. This is what makes me you know what? Forget the fact that it's Herschel Walker. Forget the fact that he's already lied multiple times. Forget the fact that, yes, there may be an inkle of truth to this. But do you believe in his very backwards way of thinking that maybe, just maybe, what might do him in is the actual card he sent, the actual card he allegedly sent in? Get well soon from abortion. I mean, again, as I said before, when it comes to Republicans, abortion is only bad until it affects them. And once it affects them, they know somebody who knows somebody who can take care of it. So I'm not surprised by Herschel Walker. I'm not surprised about Republicans either. Keep in mind, we're a month away from the midterm elections. The Republicans want Georgia bad. They want Georgia bad because of its 2 senator seats, because they know that Marjorie Taylor Greene is in a little bit of danger. So that one representative seat may be in danger. But those 2 Democratic seats, because one by Mr. Joel Ossoff, the other one by Raphael Warnock, do you not think for 1 second that they're not going to try to disrupt at least one of those seats? 2 would be nice, but don't think that for a second they're not going to try to disrupt one. But Republicans are backing up Herschel Walker even now that scandal has come out. What makes it worse is that if it's true. Because that's the one thing I'll say about Republicans and their BS view on pro-life. Because this just goes to show you that, yes, if he did do this, yes, if he is guilty of this, and Republicans still stand behind him, it's not about abortion. It is about power. I said the same thing here in Tennessee. Representative Scott DeJarlais, a man who's had multiple mistresses, and each of those mistresses have had abortions paid by him. This man is still in elected office in Tennessee. That just goes to tell you Republicans do not care about abortions. They care about power. And trust and believe if Herschel Walker can get enough idiots to vote for him, then they'll back him up with everything they got. We should not be surprised, but we should be aware. Moving right along, guys. The Oath Keepers are back in. I don't say back in jail. They should be in jail, but they are back in court because they were accused of an armed rebellion that was going to occur, which was looked into by the January 6th committee, which we shouldn't be surprised by. They were literally going to the Capitol armed to the teeth.
ABC News investigative reporter Catherine Falders joins me live now for more on this. Catherine, at least 3 Oath Keeper leaders have already pleaded guilty to seditious conspiracy stemming from this attack on the Capitol. How could that impact this case?
Yeah, well, look, as Pierre described, these
who have pleaded guilty could potentially testify in this trial. That could prove to be very consequential. We know that they've handed over text messages, they've handed over communications from inside the group on January 6th that investigators have been essentially poring over here, and they've been investigating not just January 6th, but what happened in the lead up and what happened after January 6th. So again, all that evidence that they've been providing to investigators during their cooperation could be brought up in this trial. Of course, they could also testify against these other Oath Keepers on trial as well.
Now, the Washington Post is also reporting that months before the FBI search of Mar-a-Lago, one of former President Trump's lawyers refused his request to tell the National Archives that all the documents had been returned. How significant is that to that case?
Well, look, this could prove to be very significant. There's lots of questions about whether this proves that Trump could have knowingly obstructed this ongoing investigation.
And we got to stop it right there because they're pretty much going into the previous story that we talked about. But yes, that they are accused of doing an armed rebellion. We're not surprised by this. They have sat there and said it. Trump has sat there and said it. He has incited this crowd, which goes to show you that I think the whole goal behind this commission was the fact that they want to hold Trump accountable. But as you can see, even with red-handed evidence, they have to make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, because we've seen how slippery Donald can be, especially with the fact of dodging that, yes, you may have incited a coup. And everyone that decided to go up on the Capitol during that electoral college count vote might as well be a terrorist. Domestic terrorism. But we'll follow that as it comes along. Some other quick business news, guys. Again, we shouldn't be surprised by this, but I guess we got to announce it anyway. Elon Musk may buy Twitter after all. And that's concerning because they're right back at the $44 billion one. Keep in mind, Elon Musk and Twitter were going back and forth about the fact that Elon Musk had accused them of, a lot of their accounts were bots. The fact that, he said that he would give, Donald Trump back his Twitter account and things of that nature. It looks like that it may actually go through, and I am concerned. I'm very concerned because if you really think about this, let's just say Elon Musk owns Twitter, Zuckerberg, for the better part of the word, owns Instagram and Facebook. That leaves Snapchat and TikTok. Now, the one thing I will sit there and say about things like this is that social media has always been areas of free speech. That being said, Elon Musk looks like the type that if you say something bad about a Tesla, not only will he ban your Twitter account, if you have a Tesla, he may lock you out of it, as some Tesla customers have allegedly said that he did. But that's the problem with these social media. It's like, we already know Elon Musk isn't going to buy Twitter just because he can sit there and say it's a great social platform. No, it's monetization. What do rich people do? They buy things to keep them rich, to keep generating income from them. And that's what he's going to do with this one. I wouldn't be surprised if he monetizes the crap out of Twitter and people leave Twitter and probably move on to the next big thing. So if anything, there's any bright lights you can take out of this, guys, that whoever comes up with the next great social media app is going to clean up, because everybody's going to wind up leaving Twitter, especially if Elon Musk has his way. But again, moving right along, guys, there is something that's going on in most stores, especially in San Francisco, because for all those that have Ring, have certain security cameras, you may be aware of who actually has access to your data. And of course, in this case, San Francisco's police has a lot more access than most people would feel comfortable giving.
Soon after Michael Sue opened his San Francisco shoe store, it was robbed.
The perpetrator used the blowtorch to get in, to bypass our alarm system.
Thieves have hit the store 3 times.
When somebody breaks in, it's like somebody breaking into your home.
Now, a San Francisco ordinance gives police access to live, private footage like Sue's. They need the owner's permission, but they do not need a warrant.
I want to be the first one in line to give them access to my camera.
San Francisco has seen a surge in retail thefts, including by this 2021 group that evaded police while robbing downtown stores.
Some of that potentially could have been avoided if they were able to watch the situation in real time.
San Francisco banned the use of facial recognition in 2019 and has championed alternative policing.
We have already won because
But voters recalled its progressive DA this year as crime became more visible. Police data shows arrests are made in fewer than 10% of reported cases. But Mayor Breed says the city has to try something new.
Sadly, people believe, based on understanding the way the laws work in San Francisco, that in most cases they can get away with something like this, even if they're on film.
You believe that state law is too lenient?
I think it's just a combination of things. And then when it does happen, we want to hold the perpetrators accountable.
This ordinance requires special circumstances and internal clearance before officers can get footage. But those who voted against this ordinance say we are not seeing the bigger picture.
Do they really help make us safer? And that is the question. And when those video footages are already readily available to our law enforcement, and yet we still cannot deliver safety results, where does this lead us?
Michael Sue says he'll hand over access, but within limits.
Obviously, they wouldn't need to really see the inventory room. Cameras, I'm willing to share whatever it's needed, for the police to do their job.
So that becomes the question. Again, this is one of those things where I say, when it comes to surveillance, when is enough enough? Because if you really think about it, and I say this all the time, that we are becoming a police state. Which again, there's nothing wrong with it because, actually there's a lot wrong with it because police want access. Not only, like I said, Ring, if you have a Ring video or things of that nature, they can request access to that as well. So a lot of people are concerned, especially if you have certain video cameras or certain door answering services that do have this. Yeah, you're going to be very concerned. You're going to be very concerned because, well, any law enforcement can just, a few keystrokes, tap in and see that. But I can also argue that, yes, law enforcement probably does need a hand up. We saw from San Francisco, and not just San Francisco, but other areas in the U.S., where there's been a lot of smash and grabs, and of course, people wearing masks or wearing cloth masks to protect their faces. But I would be remiss to there and say that yes, we do need to go back to surveillance. But the thing about it is, it goes back to who's controlling the surveillance and who has access to it. And it just shouldn't be something that almost every law enforcement officer should have. But I do believe that, there is areas to where, especially if you're in a store, yes, you should have surveillance. We've been under, like I said before, ever since the Patriot Act, we should not be surprised that Big Brother's always watching. And at the same time, if I have a convenience store or retail store and my store gets robbed, yes, I want the people that did rob my store to be persecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And if providing my surveillance footage, which it should be my choice to do. That's the thing about it. As long as I get the choice to hand it over, I got no issue with that. But I feel like as that subject increases and we go further into it, it may no longer be a choice anymore. And that is the scary part. That's all I'm saying. But we're going to move on, guys, to our feel-good story, because usually on How the Frack Got Here, we do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes make you lose faith in humanity. But hey, it's hump day. Tomorrow's Friday, which is Thursday. And we definitely want to see you guys out on a good note. And again, it says Breast Cancer Month, and it's always nice to see a survivor story, and I never get tired of seeing them.
Early on that one. She fought valiantly and is now cancer-free. Please join me in giving her Gerald Oldham a round of applause. Today's environment just makes it special that we can share that human bond to take care of each other. Everybody's a big family out there. Welcome aboard. Congratulations.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Like I said, just because for some of us it hits a lot closer to home than you think. So again, definitely get mammogram, men and women, because men can get breast cancer too. Definitely get yourselves checked. Early detection of cancer. 9 times out of 10 leads to cancer free. And also, congrats to that woman because again, F cancer. Best way I could put that. But that being said, guys, it's going to do it for our podcast. So I do want to thank everybody that liked, that watched, that shared, that commented. I certainly appreciate every one of you. Before I do get out of here, got to do some shameless plugging as I usually do. Shout out to my buddy Yvonne, BigBZA on all socials. Yvonne Westman on Facebook. Definitely check him out as he usually does his TikToks as well as his beats that he's doing. But definitely check him out for the beats, for the TikToks, and the random stuff. BigBZA on all socials. Yvonne Westboon on Facebook. As for yours truly, guys, almost on every social, you can find me, BlackFox447. You can like and follow me. I usually post everything that I watch and review, and sometimes gym stuff because I, try to do a couple push-ups. At the same time, guys, we as a society need to be better. Now, I talk to the brothers especially because my brothers, we have to be kind to each other. I mean, I'm so tired of the cold, mean mugging. Like, I understand keep your head on a swivel. I understand in this society, but we still can at least greet each other. Head nod, what's up? How you doing? Something like that. Just be kinder. I'm not saying be good Samaritans, but damn, say hi at least. Actually be decent is what I'm asking for. And also check on your people. Hey, whether it's been a while, it's been a long time, check up on them. You can do a lot. I mean, by just checking up on everybody, you can do a lot more than just saying hi. You actually may save life in the process because we all need somebody. As humans, we don't do well alone. So if you do got loved ones or friends or family you need to check up on, hey, call them, text them, tweet them, however you get in touch with them, go ahead and do it. Last thing I'll say, guys, again, if you're going to be out and about, coronavirus, since many Decepticons are still out there, please protect yourself if you're in high volume traffic areas with a mask. And if you feel sick or feel any type of hint that you will feel sick, please stay home and take care of yourself. When you take care of yourselves, you prevent others from getting sick, and that's how we're going to get past this pandemic. Also, I almost forgot. The actual trailer at the bottom, let me make that a little bit bigger for you guys to see. If you copy and paste that in your browser, take you to my link tree. That's the YouTube and Facebook group for all of my podcasts. How the Frack got here, Get Ben, of course, Alchemist Podcast. Definitely like, share, and subscribe. Let people know about it as we try to grow these podcasts into something bigger. As I try to take a breath. And of course, guys, like I said before, it's all love. I still want to know you guys' opinions. Did you like it? Did you like what we did? You didn't like what we did? You have different opinions on everything, all the subjects that we discussed tonight. Please let me know. Let's continue that conversation. The last thing I say about How the Frack right here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel, guys. We are simply giving you all the information, allowing you to make up your own mind, but provide a logical perspective that goes along with it. We do a lot better society as we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then, like electing our first Black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, electing our first Black 4-star military general to the armed forces. All great things. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. That's why we keep asking ourselves, why does everything go up on our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the Frack we got here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves and each other. We will all get through this. Peace.